Get ready
for the most electrifying podcast,
Gente Talk. Hosted by husband and wife duo
Jorge La Voz
and Dr. Lonnie.
With over 8 billion people on this planet,
We aim to capture the stories changing the world,
experience intriguing pláticas,
laughter,
and interactive challenges that will captivate everyone,
including your abuelita.
Stay tuned, gente.
This is going to be a ride you won't want to miss. Meet Mark Guerrero. Born and raised in East Los Angeles, Mark is a key figure in Chicano rock.
The son of legendary musician Lalo Guerrero, Mark started playing music at 13 with his band, Mark and the Escorts, sharing the stage with East Side legends like Cannibal and the Headhunters and the Midnighters.
His early success led to recording 2 singles, and later, as a solo artist, he signed with Capitol Records, releasing the powerful anthem, I'm Brown.
Mark's songwriting talent was recognized when Herb Alpert recorded his Pre-Columbian Dream, and his tribute to Dodger pitcher Fernando Valenzuela was featured on ESPN's Fernando Mania.
Over the years, Mark has worked with legends like Los Lobos and Redbone, while also contributing to documentaries about Chicano music history.
Through his performances, lectures, and projects, Mark has played a huge role in documenting and preserving the rich legacy of East LA's rock scene.
His work continues to inspire and influence generations in the world of Chicano music and beyond.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Gente Talk Show. I am your host, Jorge La Voz.
And Dr. Lonnie.
Y estamos aquí una vez más. We are here once again with a very, very special guest. And man, I can't wait for this episode and this interview. But Dr. Lonnie, will you do us the honors of telling us who our special guest is today?
Yes, so I want to introduce Mark Guerrero. Let's go ahead and say woo!
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Welcome, Mark.
And I have to say, so Chicano singer, songwriter, a performer, recording artist, also
Historian.
I was gonna say music historian.
East LA and Chicano music historian.
That's right. And I also want to say that you're a Cal State LA alumni.
That's right.
Which is the most important one.
BA in Chicano Studies, 1978, I think.
And you came to our campus. You've done workshops with our students, community members. I mean, just amazing.
And I did a concert there in 2013 in December. And I had a whole show. I did an acoustic show. I did an electric show. It was great. Yeah, I forgot what the reason was, but I got to play there.
You come from a little legacy. That's
a
one
little
thing.
tiny legacy.
A little tiny legacy. You happen to be the son of
Lalo Guerrero.
You wrote an article about your dad at one point.
Okay.
And in this quote, you said, Lalo Guerrero is rightfully recognized as the father of Chicano music because no other Chicano artist has come close to writing and recording more great songs in virtually every genre of Latin music, including salsa, norteña, banda, rancheras, boleros, corridos, cumbias, mambos, cha-cha-chas, socially relevant songs, swing, rock and roll, and blues. And he's created children's music, comedy songs, and parodies, in addition to being a world-class singer.
Nobody else has done that. You can't think of any person of any race that has done all that.
Strength. It's not just something you find, it's something you build. At Kekoa Strength Training, we don't just lift weights, we lift ourselves. We push past limits. Every rep, every step brings you closer to the strongest version of you. This is where you break barriers, where you find your resilience. At Kekoa Strength, we're not just a gym, we're a community. We rise together stronger every day. Strength starts here. Are you ready?
I mean, that is so impressive.
It's crazy. And yet, he only received a certain amount of fame because of being a Latino. He was well known in the Southwest, in Mexico, but not worldwide and not, Europe or anything like that. But he was the greatest, it was unbelievable and totally untrained.
We wanted to hop into a couple of questions to start off this particular segment.
Yeah, because this podcast is about you and who you are. We want people to get to know you. And although you are the son of Lalo Guerrero, who we just mentioned, the father of Chicano music, it must have come up with some high expectations, right? So I have a question for you. Is how did you navigate the kind of dual identities of being, Mark, young Mark, and carving out your own path?
Great question. When I was a kid, when I had my first band at age 13, Mark and the Escorts, I never brought up who my dad was. I never mentioned it. I didn't want it to come up. I just did my thing because I was proud of him, but I didn't want to use his name for anything. I want to make my own path. And also, I didn't want to be thought of as a celebrity's kid, so I didn't bring it up. And one time I played at this gig that was at the Alexandria Hotel in LA, and the other artists were, Mexican artists. And on the flyer they put, Mark Guerrero is the son of the famous singer, and I was like so mortified.
Wow.
Yeah. So when I was young, I just avoided it, didn't talk about it. But then as I got a little older, it was unavoidable, especially when I went to Chicano studies and all that. Then it was almost every interview, my dad would come up, and then I started embracing it more. And
So I have this next question, which is, what side of your father that the public didn't see actually helped influence you?
Actually, that's a great question. But before you answer that, let's take a little break.
Okay.
¿Estás buscando la casa de tu sueño? Bienvenidos a Excellence Bienes Raíces, donde ofrecen un excelente servicio y garantizan el éxito de tu inversión. Permite que Excellence te guíe a la casa de tus sueños. Porque cuando se trata de encontrar un hogar perfecto, Excellence es la única opción.
Well, in the beginning, it was just in my DNA, obviously. So I played clarinet in the third grade. For 6 years in school, I played clarinet. But I was always musical. And I got my first guitar when I was 12, and it just came natural. And then I just made a band. So it just happened naturally. I didn't plan on, I'm going to be a musician. It just happened.
You didn't plan it. What about getting into Chicano studies?
Okay. So my early bands, played a little bit of everything. R&B, surf music, British invasion, you name it, all the regular mainstream kind of music. When I got my record deals, I had 4 major deals in 5 years between 1969 and 1974. And in 72, when I was with Capitol Records, I wrote and recorded a song called I'm Brown. And that's my favorite thing I've ever done in terms of, it's a great song, it's a great record, but the message is great. It's a Chicano pride thing, it's a protest thing, but it says, don't you know I'm brown, can't you see my face, but I'm first a member of the human race. So it was an all-inclusive thing. And it was a great record, so I'm just saying all my other songs were rock and roll, country rock, and in the middle of this album is I'm Brown, like a sore thumb. And yet, that song, 3 decades later or 4 decades later, winds up in the Grammy Museum in an exhibit called Songs of Conscience, Sounds of Freedom. So in 2009, it was in there for a year, and then in 2022 again, and I got to perform it at the Grammy Museum, and Mr. Greg Esparza was there in the audience as my witness.
Now, what I'd like to know is, obviously as musicians or artists, people are obviously inspire you. Your dad was a big inspiration, although you mentioned you kind of wanted to have your own identity. But who were some of the other people that influenced your life, both personally and professionally?
Well, musically, the Beatles. The Beatles, fell in love with them from day one, bought every album as it came out, and I would say they're the biggest musical influence of my life and the most inspiring thing.
Was there a particular song that you heard that influenced you?
I just loved all their music. I loved their style and their diversity and their talent and their wit and their humor and their intelligence and their wisdom, all that good stuff.
I was going to take it one step further. What about the 60s, the Chicano movement? During that time, was there anything happening in the environment? Because, we talk about the 60s civil rights. There's a lot going on. Was that, you talked about I'm Brown, which is a beautiful song. I'm curious, what went behind I guess, the creation of that for you?
Well, first, like as you know, in '69 there was the Chicano moratorium, and I remember when that happened, and Ruben Salazar got murdered on Whittier Boulevard, and all that was happening, and the Chicano movement was on the rise in the late '60s, and all the East LA bands before that were just doing R&B and rock and doo-wop and whatever. But after the movement started going in the late '60s, all the groups started getting more Latin and writing songs like The Midnighters' Chicano Power and El Chicano, Don't Put Me Down If I'm Brown. And we started, that's when that started coming out. So I already had that in me. And in '71 is when I wrote I'm Brown. I was just feeling this Chicano pride, and I wrote that song in about 15 minutes,
15 minutes?
Well, just almost as fast as I could think.
So you wrote the song in literally 15
Oh,
minutes?
literally, yeah. The best songs can be like that. So my best songs were 10, 15 minutes. Literally almost, I could just as fast as I could.
You were a line and
yeah,
flow.
Yeah, you just get into the zone and you do it. Yeah, and I felt it. And so to this day, I'm most proud of that song and record. So then I went back to, after these 4 major record deals, I got sick of the music business and all the, skullduggery and whatever that goes on in there. And I went back to school, and I thought, what am I going to major in? I didn't read music at that point, so I couldn't be a music major, so what else? The only thing that made sense was Chicano Studies. Took one class, fell in love with it at LACC. Then I went to Cal State. I had already done 2 years there before, in 1967 and 68, I think. I did my first 2 years at ELAC. But then I was not in college for 6 years. I went back in 1976, I believe. I took that one class and went back full-time to Cal State, did my last 2 years, got my degree in Chicano Studies, and that just opened up everything because, started studying about the pre-Columbian peoples and all the discrimination and the corporate agriculture, all the stuff, And I got totally into that. And then I started writing songs, that were very Chicano and bilingual, and songs about, Mexican history or songs about the Aztecs. So that's when my dad's music and mine started to come together more. And
why don't we talk about that a little bit more after a word from our sponsors?
Okay.
Work it, make it, do it, makes us harder, better, faster, stronger. More than power, never, ever, after work is over. Harder, better, faster, stronger. Work it harder, make it better, do it faster, makes us stronger. More than ever, hour after hour, work is never over. Work it harder, make it better, do it faster, makes us stronger. More than ever, hour after hour, work is never over.
And we're back, and I want to continue some conversation about Chicano studies and how that opened up consciousness for you. But I got to ask really quick. So was King Hall there yet by that time?
Yes.
Because it's a very revolutionary, historic building.
I had many classes there, yes.
It's still there.
Yeah.
We still have our classes there.
In that new building, it was the new building in the 70s, that one put closer to the freeway.
Yes.
I had a lot of classes in there too.
Wow. So that space really did a lot for you in terms of connecting with the literature, the knowledge,
The culture.
The culture.
I was just totally into it. I got straight A's, 16 A's and 1 B.
Okay.
The last 2 years.
Okay.
I was into it. And I started writing more songs in the Chicano Mexican genre. And like I said, my dad's music and mine started to come together more. We started doing more things together. But I must say, even in the 60s when I was a teenager, I played on many of my dad's records throughout the 60s into the 70s, always. But we didn't start performing together or writing together until a little later.
So what were some of the songs, just really quick, that you played on that you can remember? Like
my
that's me.
dad's?
Yeah, from your, like, can you remember? I was on this song. I was on this song.
Oh, yeah, there was one. He had a song called Los Greñudos, and it was about the hippies during the hippie thing, and it was all about these long-haired guys. And he had my band, Mark and the Escorts, play on it. It was great, and he sings his butt off, in Spanish rock and roll, growling, and we're rocking. That was a good one. Then we did one called La Minifalda de Reinalda.
I was just gonna say, was it Minifalda de Reinalda? That's a cool song.
I played the lead guitar on it. It was a 12-string. I was 15, and that breakdown, that was me.
It's like kind of like a
Okay, was
norteña.
Reinalda real though? I want to know.
No, it was not real because it rhymed with Minifalda. But
Well, that song talks about, you know, the low back and you know.
But anyway, what was so genius about that song was my band was there, and he brought in a Tex-Mex norteño band with an accordion and all that Mexican guys, and there was no trickery, overdubs. It was my dad was singing live, we were playing live. So the song started out as a Tex-Mex, and then it stops. Canto así, Reinalda, Reinalda, quítate su minifalda. And it turns into a rock, and we're rocking out, and we stop. Then it goes back into the Tex-Mex, and it was one take, everything at the same time. No overdubs, no digital trickery. It was done, two bands in the room at the same time, and it became a huge hit, and other bands in Mexico recorded it, and so that was another one that was very special.
Yeah, that's a fan favorite.
Yeah, and there's others too. Those two come to mind, but there are probably others. Yeah, definitely.
¿Están listos para algo nuevo? Descubre la alegría del baile con Prestige en Steven's Steakhouse. Ya seas principiante, intermedio o avanzado, Miguel y Jennifer te guiarán en cada paso del camino. Ven a bailar, reír y hacer nuevos amigos. Tu aventura comienza aquí.
Well, I want to talk about because I guess you worked with Lou Adler, right?
Yes.
At such a young age.
Yes.
Did you ever feel maybe like you were stepping into a world beyond your years? And how did that experience kind of challenge or change your approach to music per se?
You know, I didn't think of it that way. You know, when I was 21, I thought, you know, okay, I'm here, and I didn't think, gee, I'm so young. But when I think back at it, 21 years old, signing with a major producer like that, who had produced the Mamas and the Papas and Carole King. He was one of the biggest producers in the world. And I go in to record two of my songs, and it was like major, backing musicians, famous drummer, famous bass player, the Wrecking Crew, famous black female singers, Mary Clayton and Darlene Love, Rock and Roll Hall of Famer. So the best of the best backing me up at 21. And the record sounds great to this day, but no promotion came forth. And I think I got caught in between Carole King and the next thing, because while I was recording that and while I was with Lou Adler, her album Tapestry became the #1 seller of all time. Oh, wow. So all attention went to her, and I just got kind of lost in the shuffle. But I think it's quite a badge of pride that at that age I could be signed to Lou Adler, and he put out a record with his name on it. It meant a lot. I don't know any other East LA musician that did that. That's pretty hard, pretty hardcore. Then it went from that to Capitol Records in '72, and that's the label the Beatles are on, and the Beach Boys and Frank Sinatra, Mark Guerrero on Capitol. That was pretty cool. And then A&M Records, Herb Alpert's label, right after that in '73, '74, and that's when I had my band Tango, and that's the album that was rock and country rock, except it had I'm Brown in the middle,
Right. So quick question. Lila, Love Me Tonight,
Yeah.
which is a beautiful track.
Yeah, you heard it?
Of course,
Well, that's the one-
I listen to all your
You
songs.
did your research.
I did my research. I know you've done a lot of podcasts, so we need to be prepared.
Okay.
I said we gotta throw some things.
Okay.
But if you could go back into that recording session, what would you tell your younger self?
But before you answer that, let's take a short break.
Okay.
Welcome to Excellence Real Estate, where every corner holds the promise of home. At Excellence Real Estate, they're not just selling houses, they're opening doors to your future. From cozy starter homes to spacious family retreats, they can help you find your new home. Let excellence lead you home. Contact them today, because when it comes to finding your perfect fit, excellence is the only option.
So we're back, and we wanted to talk a little bit about being in the recording session and what advice you'd give to your younger self.
I don't know what advice, but all I can say, I was in shock because the records I had made before were with my buddies, And we were very talented and very good, but it would take us a while to record stuff. You do a basic track, you might do 10 takes till you get it right, and then you do overdub this, and it'd take hours.
It's that like La Bamba, like wow, right? In that movie where they're just recording everything and not stopping.
Right, exactly. But yeah, so suddenly I'm with the best musicians in the world. I show them the song, they do it in one take. I'm like, what the hell? I couldn't believe how fast things were done, and everything was like this. Oh, this is the big time, And I had a string section, a 20-piece string section. It was just big time, yeah. So I had enough talent to do it and pull it off. I played guitar, I sang, I wrote the song. But I look back at myself and I see how inexperienced I was, and how I might have done it a little different, with more experience. Like the vocal, I think I settled, I did it, and I could have done it maybe better or taken more time, but, I didn't do that. And I look back and go, I probably could have sung that a little better. But overall, I'm proud of how great it came out at that age.
It's beautiful. Let's talk a little bit about tango.
Okay.
With a little bit of a twist. My understanding is that, especially I can imagine as an emerging Chicano artist, was the industry very welcoming of Chicano musicians?
Of course not.
Of course not, right?
Of course not.
So what were some of the, let's talk a little bit about the ugly. Let's talk about the ugly of the industry. And what was some of that struggle that you encountered? Because you said at some point you kind of walked away from it, right?
Because I got fed up with not getting promotion. They didn't know what to do with a Latino artist, They knew how to promote white artists, black artists, but anything in between, forget about it.
Wait, we're talking 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s?
We're talking 60s, 70s. That's what we've talked about so far. But it still exists. But I'm saying then it was even worse. They didn't know the difference between a Chicano, a Cubano, a Latino, a Hispanic, a Mexican. They don't know who's what and what's what. They just know that you're Mexican. And so then they want to throw you in the Latin division with the Spanish language. Oh, Guerrero, let's put him in the Latin. No, I'm an American. Capitol Records told my manager, well, why didn't you change his name? They didn't want Mark Guerrero on the record. And I refused. That might have hurt me. Because then they go to the radio stations and the program directors go, Guerrero, what the hell is this? There's racism. There's, So that didn't help.
Did they tell you what they wanted to change your name to?
Something that sounded Anglo, like Richie Valens was Valenzuela.
Right.
Chris Montez was Montanez. Freddie Fender was Valdemar Huerta. Vicky Carr was something else. They just made you change your name if you were Latino, if you wanted to be mainstream. And
so do you consider those people maybe sellouts, so to speak?
Not really, because it was so early on. You had to do that or you couldn't record. So I don't blame them. But at least I just didn't want to get rid of my family name that I was proud of. So that
when did that start changing? Has it changed?
No, I don't think so. I think it's the same. How many, Mexican American rock stars are there? Los Lobos are famous, but it's really hard. And most of those bands like Tierra, El Chicano, they have one hit or two hits, and they live off that their whole career. They have this real small window, and they got a niche audience. They play all these Latin cruises, Latin legends. They're not playing in Iowa or New England, or they're just pretty much in the Southwest. We have a limited market.
You would hear them under the Art Laboe, right?
Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah. So it's just almost impossible to become an international artist, not only as a Latino American, but as a Native American, an Asian American, an Arab American. It's really rough. Black or white, you're all right.
Well, so far we're loving this segment here, and this is a great talk, but we're not done yet.
Oh, no.
Not yet. So we're going to come back right after this.
And we're back, and this is probably part of my favorite part of our podcast, which is a performance. And just, first of all, thank you for being here and for sharing your knowledge and even connecting to different audiences. I think folks need to, I don't know, I know they say that your dad is like the father of Chicano music, but do you consider yourself?
I'm the son of Chicano music.
You're the son of Chicano music?
That's what Skip Haller did. I did a show with Skip Haller, I remember, at the Hello Stranger, and he goes, here's the son of Chicano music.
So what are you going to play for us?
I'm going to do I'm Brown.
All right.
Okay. Written in 1971, recorded in 1972 on Capitol Records.
You're brown, you can hang around just as long as you don't make a sound. Don't call us, we'll keep in touch just as long as you don't say too much. So take a step to the back of your heart. It isn't much, but you know once you start. Don't you know I'm brown? Can't you see my face? But I'm first a member of the human race. Don't shout, don't you know I found out that you don't know what you're talking about. Lord knows I know how it goes. Everybody's got to stay on his toes. Hey son, pick that off of the ground. Wake up, see what's going down. Don't you know I'm brown? Can't you see my face? But I'm first a member of the human race. Don't cry, never say die. Don't you know that it's only a lie? Don't quit, duck, don't get hit. We're gonna make it bit by bit. Hey boy, get that shine on my shoes. You can't laugh when you're living the blues. Don't you know I'm brown? Can't you see my face? But I'm first a member of the human race.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
Wow. Brown and proud.
Proud and proud, baby.
Yeah. Aquí Latinos.
That's right.
Well, Mark, thank you very much for coming to our show.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure. It was a lot of
It's a
fun.
privilege for us to have the son of Chicano music.
That's right.
And for all your words of wisdom, your inspiration, thank you for sharing, the challenges that you went through.
Absolutely.
You actually formed your own identity. And, well, here you are, sharing your story. So I hope everybody out there that's watching, go to, listen to Mark Guerrero's music. You can find him on.
Find me online. Go to markguerrero.com. Go to my YouTube channel, on my podcast, Chicano Music Chronicles on Mark Guerrero Radio, and my Zoom interview show, East LA Music Stories, on YouTube.
Yes.
So once again, thank you very much for tuning in on one of our showcases here at Gente Talk Show. I am your host, Jorge La Voz.
And Dr. Lonnie.
Hasta la próxima. Be sure to follow us and subscribe.
This is going to be a ride you won't want to miss.